I want to discuss the cultural phenomena surrounding the WAP or WAP video, but what I'm especially interested in is the emergent polemic around the use of sexual imagery and female potency. A Guardian article said the video is unapologetic in celebrating the sensuality and sexuality of women. It isn't shy or coy. It's about the loud articulation of female desire for sex as they want it, and it centres them as active participants with agency. Well, that's absolutely bloody terrific. The backlash was immediate. Scores of people took to the internet to defame women for celebrating their genitalia and coital desires. Nothing wrong with that. In a manner not reserved for male rappers or singers. I would strongly contest that hip-hop music from its origins has always been subject to a critique from the mainstream media, and even as hip-hop has become the new dominant mainstream, the values of hip-hop have been under constant criticism for its over-sexualization of women, its overt celebration of male archetypes associated with chauvinism and violence. So I think that is an unfair and inaccurate analysis. My key point I would like to make is, do we achieve equality by aspiring to the values established by the forces or authors of the hierarchy and system itself, i.e., do women achieve equality by aspiring to and replicating the values that have been established by males? Let's take this one simple example, because that's what this video is about. If male hip-hop tropes are about the potency of male sexuality, which we sort of think, well, these are reductive, it's not a celebration of traditional, conventional male values such as duty, service, loyalty, bravery, courage, all traits, of course, that can exist across genders and sexes, but I'm talking about traditional values. And then a female video is a sort of a celebration of sexual potency, or let's just take the description that the Guardian offered: sexuality, sensuality, isn't shy, coy, loud articulation of female desire. Essentially, it's an emulation of a template that already exists and was established by males. Is it equality if the template has already been established by the former dominator? The answer is no. It's an argument that I suppose is easy to make, but a lot less bloody sexy, when considering the leadership of Margaret Thatcher. Was Margaret Thatcher a feminist icon? No, because the values that she extolled, espoused and conveyed were male values. She was a woman man. She was a very, very, very powerful person, a brilliant politician, but her premiership did not lead to more opportunity for women, more success for women, conventional female values such as nurture, careness, equality. Now, it's a very interesting place to have a debate, isn't it? Because if you're saying that, we're celebrating women, like this Guardian article says, you are saying women are different from men. So you get into an interesting vortex around this point, because there are, of course, a lot of complex arguments around identity that are happening at the moment. Let's have a look at what some commentators online and in mainstream media have said about this video, and how it is a vessel for some of the complex arguments that happen at the moment, and what are the real values that we should be aspiring to. Myself, with my own, my attitudes towards sex and sexuality have altered as I've gotten older, and as I've just changed. I wouldn't want to place a value on it, but I must say that, I'm aware of the power of female sensuality and sexuality, and when I watched that video, I was spellbound by its potency and power. From a political perspective, I don't know that demonstrates progress, because gender and sex aside, what are the values that we're collectively aspiring to? Objectification of the other, objectification of the self. Is objectification something that we're aspiring to? Sexuality and sensuality as commodity. See, this is one of the things that interests me most, I suppose, about the culture war, is that regardless of where you land on this apparently wide spectrum of left versus right, the fact is that at the end point is a product, a commercial product. You can't unravel this system or challenge this system using the means of a commodity, a beautiful blob of product. If you can be sponsored by Nike or Coca-Cola or any brand, or if you can be housed in a mainstream record label, then by definition the content is not radical. That's not a critique, that's just a fact. Radical means it's outside of the mainstream, it's a threat to the mainstream, it's a challenge to the mainstream. And the mainstream, I would argue, is not about the sort of wallpaper of the culture war, colours, gender, sexes, whilst these are important issues. It's about these deep structures themselves. Who has power, who can influence, who can control, who dominates. And I would say whether it's left versus right politically, or many of the other, I would argue, if not false dichotomies, I would say narrow dichotomies, we're not actually altering the ability of ordinary men and women and people who identify in different ways to live lives that are free from oppression and truthful expressions of who they really are. What we want as individuals is self-actualization. Watching that video of Cardi B and Megan The Stallion, you know, indeed, there is no doubt an essential potency and organic power to female sexuality. Nobody would ever question that. But that's a product. What we're looking at there is a product.
Let's talk about Cardi B, Megan The Stallion, and their new song and music video, WAP. This has become a whole thing, actually several whole things. They released this video Friday. As of this morning, it has over 59 million views just on YouTube. And along with the massive success of this song, there have also been people angry for a number of reasons.
I think that in a sense, we're not ambitious enough about what we're aspiring to culturally. I wouldn't be so reductive and simplistic to say that women celebrate in their bodies using an aesthetic that's conventionally been associated with the male gaze means it's impossible that these tools could be used as a vehicle for liberation. But I'm saying that in a sense, it's still the same metric, it's still the same aesthetic, it's still the same values, it's still the same ideals. It's still ultimately a sort of capitalist objectification and commodification of, in this case, the female. I'm not suggesting that they aren't powerful auteurs and powerful creators. I'm saying that we ought be aspiring to an entirely different set of values, not who has the power within an established set of values.
Deanna Lorraine, another Republican and former congressional candidate from California, making similar remarks, saying the women set the entire female gender back by 100 years with their disgusting and vile song.
I don't think it's disgusting and vile. It's sort of amazing, but you know what I felt was like, this is powerful and attractive, and I don't feel like it's helpful for me to watch stuff. Not that I would judge any creator for making the content they want, whether it's Mick Jagger gyrating around, or Justin Bieber being sexy, or any contemporary male hip-hop artist, or Cardi B and Megan The Stallion. What I felt on a personal level is, oh my God, these women are so beautiful. And the feeling I felt wasn't particularly distinct from what I would get from watching more conventional erotic content. So if that's if the result is the same, then how distinct is the process, I wonder? Although this is of course a very subjective appraisal. What else could it be, in all honesty? So I suppose what I'm saying is I'm interested in its impact on culture. I'm interested in now how it is now a feminist trope of female empowerment for women to take control of an aesthetic that is indistinguishable from what preceded it. The sort of scenes where unless it's sort of somehow parody or pastiche, the scenes where there are numerous women dancing are no different from like hip-hop videos from 20 years ago. Like some Mix-a-Lot or like other male hip-hop artists, there's scores of examples. the end product ain't any different. And so I'm not squeamish about female sexuality. I love female sexuality. It's a very, very sort of potent, powerful force. But the commodification of male sexuality or female sexuality, whether it's males commodifying female or vice versa, or that particular sex celebrating or commodifying, depending on how you regard it, their own sex. What is the ultimate aim? What is it that we're really looking for? What I'm saying is equality within the cube of capitalism isn't equality at all, because it's happening within pre-established parameters. It's the parameters themselves that need to change.
Some people have to go search out the things that they say they hate and then make themselves look absolutely ridiculous by commenting about it. And we have perhaps the funniest example of that ever, and that is Ben Shapiro breaking down literally the lyrics, sort of, a little bit censored, of this song. Take a look.
Here are some of the lyrics. You ready? Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house.
I must say I enjoy Ben Shapiro very much. I think he is an excellent commentator, whilst of course politically I would find myself in a different position. His ability to communicate, I think, is excellent, and seeing him recite the lyrics from Whores in This House is a real treat.
I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P word. P word is female genitalia. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you got for this wet ass P word. Beat it up, N word. Catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card.
I think Ben Shapiro's gradually being hypnotized. There's a moment he put his finger there. I think at the point of the nose being swiped like a credit card. I ain't squeamish about sex. There is no reason to be squeamish about sex. And I don't think there is any problem with people of any gender or sex using celebratory and graphic language. But I think it is interesting for us to contemplate and consider whether what we're trying to achieve is harmony and equality, or a kind of, what is the appetite behind it? The content itself is what it is. It's another hip-hop video with talented hip-hop performers who are extraordinarily attractive, presenting an array of visual imagery and a sort of a variety of their talents. The commentary around it is an indicator of where we stand as a culture. People sort of eagerly taking sides and waving flags for pre-existing ideologies without, I think, recognizing that none of the positions within their polemic represent genuine, real change. And there's no reason for Cardi B and Megan The Stallion to be trying to bring about global revolution, is there? It's enough for them to make a really good pop song. They have done that. It's enough for them to be incredibly attractive and to use their attractiveness as a kind of tool to create content and an explosive piece of, an explosive product. But I think it is bizarre for people anywhere on the scale to think, to sort of posit that it is anything other than commodity, really. Anything other than commodity. Not saying that they should be doing anything other than creating commodity. I mean, isn't that's what that job is, to be a hip-hop artist? And I believe that is what they have done.
Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. It continues along these lines.
Ben Shapiro, it makes me love him. One thing I will say is that people from the apparent left and apparent right of this this current cultural discourse must learn to look at one another with acceptance, tolerance, love, without contempt. Otherwise, there's never going to be any genuine progress, just a passing of a baton of sort of either disgust, approbation or approval, depending on what particular side of the argument you happen to fall. For me, it's particularly interesting because I've come from a background of promiscuity and indeed addiction around that, around sort of sex and sexuality, and that, I must say, is particularly potent in areas. Female empowerment is something that I find pretty appealing. and attractive. And I suppose therefore that the lens through which I'm looking at it is somewhat warped. I've become necessarily personally puritanical, i.e. I don't engage in that kind of content or look at erotica of any kind, not because I think I'm too good for it, but because I think the impact it will have on me is not beneficial to what I would consider to be my growth as a person. But I'm not a Puritan or a judgment. And more broadly, I believe that spirituality and growth is for me as an individual, and not for me to sort of try to impose on other people. So yes, that's goddess energy they're using. And it's no coincidence that consciously or otherwise, the animal totems that come up in that video, serpents, tigers, cheetahs, are typical exemplifiers of female potency in societies and civilizations a lot older than this one. And when this one inevitably falls apart, which seems to be what it is doing now, and I'm not saying that as a result of this video, but somewhat as a result of how it can be used as a lens to view the sort of cultural sort of conflagration that we're currently experiencing. When this one falls apart, we will see that archetypes continue to abide, that forces of puritanism, hedonism, decadence, and eroticism all had to find a way to exist together, and how ultimately all of them could be parenthesized within the dominant invisible ideology of our time, capitalism. And whether you watch this on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube, you will either your data will have been used in ways that you don't understand entirely unless you're an expert in that sort of thing, or you will have been advertised at during this, even this rather meta commentary on commodification, the commodification of sex and the impossibility of real empowerment within the context of capitalism will become an artifact of a commodified artifact. So indeed, the serpent continues to coil.